Welcome to this edition of The Heart of the Mule, presented by Taylor Industries. I'm your host, Jason Ketz, and sitting alongside with the creator of The Heart of the Mule, Cordell Ballard. Cordell, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Jason.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good times, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it's great times. And, let's kind of get going here, again, with the faith side of things. Just kind of talk about, how did you come to your relationship with Christ?
My relationship with Christ came when I was about 13. I've been in a Christian household since I was born up in Wisconsin, but I didn't immediately come to Christ because the way my parents raised me, they said, you have to make sure it's a commitment you want because it's not going to be easy. There's not going to be a free ride to anything, okay? Just because you get Christ doesn't mean life's going to be honky-dory. So I would talk with them and discuss things, and then just one night when I was 13, I decided that I was ready and talked to my father and said I wanted to accept Jesus. And so he said, okay, son, and we said our little prayer and did it that way. But the funny thing is that after I accepted Christ, not only did my brother accept Christ about a week later, but then my other sister did too. So within a span of 3 weeks, me and my siblings accepted Christ. And so it was a very interesting set of circumstances, and which honestly showed me how influential I am to my siblings, whether or not they show it. So
Absolutely, and talk a little bit about, obviously, with not only being a student here at UCM, and I know you're a digital media production major, talk a little bit about how your spiritual life is able to help you in your studies.
In the case of my studies, the spiritual side does help. It does try and keep me focused because it gives me a sense of morality, in a sense, and being able to choose what's right and what's wrong in my own head. Because there's a lot of times when you get those assignments and you're just like, I'm not going to do it because it's crazy, it's stupid, it's just not worth my time. But it does help balance that out. And when I get stressed, when I get upset, because a lot of people go through depression. I know I have multiple times, and suicide. People, I've joined their ranks. I've thought about it. But what keeps me straight, what keeps me here, is through knowing that at some point it's going to be worth something, whether it's when I'm alive or when I'm dead. But even with my studies, because I know when I leave, somebody better is going to replace me. There's no doubt in my mind that there's somebody better to take my place. But to keep my studies straight, God uses that to show me that I don't know everything. I need to learn more in order to be better, to help further His kingdom.
And certainly, obviously we've done a lot together over our time with, the UCM Media Network and doing all the live events and stuff. And, those are a lot of pressure-packed situations, especially behind the camera, which is where you really flourish. Talk about how, your relationship with Christ has been able to conduct in those pressure situations.
In those pressured situations, one of the verses I like to keep in mind is Proverbs 27:17, which is, as iron sharpens iron, so a man must sharpen another. Which in those high pressure situations is when we start doing that, is when we start, working on each other and sharpening each other so we're all just one fluid machine. But yes, we've had those stressful situations, and a lot of that, I try not to let it get to me. That's one of the big things that our professors tell us. Don't get emotional, have a hard skin. There's times I agree with that, there's times I don't, because you get to understand some of the crew members. You have to have at least somewhat of a relationship with them and understand that maybe pushing them to the edge might be too insane. With me, I know there's days it's like that, and then there's days where it's like, I get it. I need to focus, I need to be understood. But in those high pressure situations, we work really well. We do understand each other. Keeping that in mind, we're able to come out with something good. Through the fire, something nice comes out, just like anything else.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about, while here at UCM, a moment or two or a time where your faith has really been tested.
In all honesty, Jason, and it's been ever since I got here. Ever since I got to UCM, it's been a struggle. Because once I got here, I didn't originally want to come to this place. I didn't want to be a mule. I didn't want to choose red. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be somewhere else. But my father and my mother thought it would be best if I came here because I did video stuff back in high school. And so they said, well, since you like doing that, why don't you go to UCM? They have a nice DMP degree. So we went here, we came, we did the seminar. I met Joe Moore for the first time. Whether or not he remembers that's when we first met is a whole other issue. I also saw Darren there too, but I doubt either one of them remember that seminar. I was probably one of a million punk freshmen that they were going like, dang, I have to be here for this. But it was nice to meet them, and really just hearing what Joe had to say about the program really sunk in and go like, this could be fun, this could be worth it. And so I did that. Freshman year was tough because I had a few classmates that came here, but they weren't really friends of mine. I just knew them from the hallways, but in all other respects, we didn't hang out. So I didn't really have much friends on campus. So I would spend a lot of time in my dormitory. And so that was difficult being alone. Once freshman year rolled out and we got done with that, that's when my major courses started kicking in and starting to actually get involved. That's when I started doing Intro to Sports Broadcasting and getting to know that. Again, it was just business relationships, not real friendships. That's been basically my struggle, is finding people to hang out with to keep me accountable. And that's been difficult because not only am I not brave enough to go and find those people, I just don't know if I will be accepted. That's one of the big things. I'm not popular, I'm not fit, I'm not beautiful, I know all that. That's why I'm not you, that's why I'm not the talent. I'm just the guy behind the camera, and what I do can be done by anybody who's hard enough to work at it and really works and really focuses. So, but that's really been the struggle, and this semester has been tough. A lot of projects to do, a lot of crazy people to deal with, and there's just times where you just want to give up, throw in the towel. And what keeps me going is just knowing that in the end, it'll hopefully further the kingdom, and it'll help me in the end to know that I was able to succeed at it.
What's the greatest strength that you find with your relationship with Christ?
The greatest strength with my relationship, there's so much that it gives. It does give me some support knowing that there's something bigger than me. I don't have to depend on people necessarily. So, as I said before, finding friends is hard because I've made friends and then they disappear. So that's been the toughest thing with me. So trying to find friends and keep them is an issue for me because once we get done here at school, you're gone. You don't see each other much anymore, but knowing that Christ and God will be there is a big strength there. So I think that's the greatest, knowing that there's somebody else out there.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about somebody who has really been able to have a major impact on you in your spiritual life.
Oh, there's several of those people. When I went to Bible school up in Estes Park, Colorado, a gentleman by the name of Spencer Buss I ran into, and he was a great guy. He knew the Word and he knew how to apply it, and he also knew how to talk with people. And he was very smart, and he was just hilarious. I have some good tales about him, but I know that's not the time for it. But he was one of the influential people. And then when I first came here to UCM, the first people I ran into were Brooke Swearingen and Heaven Warner, which earlier in the show we interviewed Heaven. So those two have been great influences on my life. And then Sterling Granger has been nice. Everybody, honestly, each one I run into impacts my life. You do. Fraser, who's in the back there running this, he impacts it. Golick, who's in the studio with us, impacts it. Everybody does. So everyone contributes a little bit to what my relationship is. So I don't think it can be fair to say just one influential person, but everybody combined does influence it.
Absolutely, and obviously the Bible that we've used all season long happens to be your own here, and obviously we end every faith side with your favorite verse. So go ahead and tell us what it is, and read it out loud, and tell us what it means to you.
Well, it's the most memorable one I know of. When I was in Bible school, this verse was read to us by a speaker who was there. Unfortunately, my memory sucks, so I can't remember everybody's name. But it's in James 4, and I'm just going to start at verse 4 and then read a little bit till I think I get my point across. So, Do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility towards God? So whoever wants to be the world's friend becomes God's enemy. Or do you think it's without reason the Scripture says that the Spirit He has caused to live in us yearns jealousy? But He gives greater grace. Therefore He says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, submit to God, but resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts, double-minded people. So this sticks with me because when the speaker told us about this verse, it was basically just 7 is what he talked about, but I read before that, and I thought it was very needed. Because there are times as Christians where we think that we need to be friends with the world, we need to understand the world, and sometimes when we want to understand it, we start to become it. And the reason why I say that is because I've done it. And I can say this much, it's not worth it. Because all it does is drag you down. And it's hard to go up a mountain once you fall down it. I know that too, because I've happened to me before. So it's hard to keep it straight. It's hard to stay on that gray line because we are called to help the world, but not become of it. And that's a difficulty that we all have. And then sometimes we're double-minded. Sometimes we don't keep what's needed to stay straight. I know that's been a difficulty of mine throughout the years, is trying to live godly both in my private life and both in my public dealings. So keeping it in that sense, being able to cleanse yourself is a hard thing, because once it's just like what we do these days. You take a shower, after you do that you're clean for maybe 5 minutes, and then you'll get dirty in the next 24 and you have to take another one. And so I think that's how we need to treat it, is that you don't just wash once a week, because then you start smelling like heck. Okay, I experienced that too. We ran out of water on the mountain, but we as Christians need to learn to bathe, not on just a daily basis, but maybe an hourly basis or a secondly basis, because that's what we're called to do. And I say that because that's what I need to do. That's what I struggle with. So it's hard for me to, preach it and talk about it and try and live it at the same time. It's easy to tell somebody else what to do. It's really easy to find that speck in somebody, but to get that own plank out of your own eye is near to impossible. But that's why I like that verse, because when the speaker told us about it, he said, whenever you think of this verse, this is what it is. The fist represents that one flaw, that one thing that holds you back. Are you going to let this control you, or are you going to put it away? Get rid of it, drop your luggage at the cross, and continue living life to the fullest that Christ wants you to. So that's why I like that verse, and I try to live by it.
Certainly a powerful one, and I appreciate you sharing that. And coming up after the break, we'll discuss with Cordell a little bit more about the sports side of Cordell Ballard here on this special edition of The Heart of the Mule presented by Taylor Industries. We'll be right back after this.
I choose to be a champion.
I choose to be inspired.
I choose the perfect fit.
I choose red to experience learning to a greater degree.
Choose red. Choose the University of Central Missouri.
Welcome to Taylor Tidbits here, presented by Taylor Industries. I'm sitting alongside here with founder and CEO of Taylor Industries, Mike Ballard. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Absolutely. And go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what Taylor Industries is and what kind of services and products you provide.
Taylor Industries is a manufacturer of medical products. Our main thing that we do here in this facility is ECG electrodes, which are used to monitor your heartbeat. If you're ever in a hospital, or say they do a stress test on you on a treadmill, they're going to have them on you to monitor your heart. We also manufacture TENS electrodes for nerve stimulating, and we custom build machinery to do different things.
And you just kind of mentioning here, this is your newest machine here,
Yes.
correct? And
Yes.
And how many electrodes can this produce in a given time?
This machine here will run at 60 cycles a minute. It makes 2 electrodes at a time, so it's doing 120 electrodes a minute. So should turn out 30-something thousand a day.
And with a machine like this, how long of a process is it from when you establish the order for it to when you actually get it here in the shop?
We typically will tell people it takes anywhere from 18 to 20 weeks. The building of it is not as time constraining as the ordering the cylinders that go on it. They come from a cylinder manufacturer, so we're kind of at the mercy of when they can get that stuff delivered. So, but typically it'll take 2 to 3 months from start to finish. Every machine we build is custom made, so there's only 2 machines that have ever left here that were identical twins. Every other machine, it's custom built for what the customer needs. So there'll be certain stations that may not be on a machine, or certain stations have to be modified for their needs. So every machine's different.
This is Mike Ballard, the founder and CEO of Taylor Industries. This has been Tailored Tidbits.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked, thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Hi, I'm Jason Ketz, and thanks for watching this week's edition of The Heart of the Mule presented by Taylor Industries. If you or someone you know would like to be on the show, email us at theheartofthemule@gmail.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of The Heart of the Mule, presented by Taylor Industries. Again, as I'm joined alongside here with creator, director, executive producer, kind of the man behind the whole entire production here of The Heart of the Mule, Cordell Ballard. Again, Cordell, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jason, but I'm none of that today. So
no, you're in front of the camera for once, and obviously being in front, is it a little bit different being on this side of things?
it's always different on this side of things, because then I need to know how to talk, and then that's just a pain and tax on my brain learning how to talk. That's just I don't speak American, I don't speak English, I speak gibberish. That's usually what I speak, but yeah, it's definitely a different feel being on this side of the camera.
Well, certainly someone that speaks English like myself, I seem to understand you pretty well. But anyway, just kind of coming along here with the sports side of things. You're originally from Jefferson City, Missouri. Good old Jeff City J, not Elias.
Nope.
You were a basketball manager for 3 years there at Jeff City High School. Talk about your experience as being a manager.
Okay, my experiences with the managing aspect of that started sophomore year. So the way Jeff City works is that there's 2 separate buildings for the high schools. So there's a total building dedicated to freshmen. So I wasn't able to be there 4 years for the high school portion because that's where I had to begin. And then I came over to the main high school, which has sophomores to seniors. So I met a gentleman by the name of Coach Hughes at Simonson, who taught health, and we talked a lot and hung out a little bit. He was also the director of the FCA program there, and I was a part of FCA at that point in time. So what we arranged is that when I got to the sophomore level, he would talk to the coaches and let me in. And when I got there, the head coach at that time was a guy by the name of David Fox. That guy was a spitfire. I'm not kidding you. He was scary. I couldn't tell half the time if he was joking or if he was going to kill me. So, but it was a great time. I enjoyed it for my sophomore year. We had a great time. We had some great players. Paul McMahon, who's here pitching, I believe, at this point in time. And then Cody Walker, who's a running back at Arkansas. I helped him out. And then Jack Young, he was a guy that we had. He plays at Northwest at this point in time, I believe. He's a safety. Yes, safety, because I ran into him at one of the games. So, and we had a lot of good guys. And so throughout that time, we had some good fun and things like that. And it definitely taught me work ethic. I can say that much. It taught me how I need to act professionally and how I need to treat things. It also got me started in videography, to be honest, because I was in charge of recording all the games. And then I also, on my free time, made hype videos for them based off of our unofficial mascot, Tauntaun. which is, if you've seen episode 5 of Star Wars, it's the little thing that Luke rides around and then he gets shoved into at the end of that. So I had a little Lego Tauntaun that we would carry around and take pictures with and things like that. And so I did a lot of that with him. Then once David Fox retired at the end of my sophomore year, so we got a whole new coach, and his name was Blair Thompson. He actually came here to UCM. He played under Kim Anderson during his time here, and he's a great guy. He loves his Diet Coke. Great guy. Learned a lot through him because he's definitely a younger guy and he has more energy, I would have to believe. And where Coach Fox would be in a tirade, it took a lot to get Coach Thompson into a tirade. You knew you screwed up when you got into a tirade with Coach Thompson.
Sure.
So it was nice to know that. But the coaches appreciated me a lot. They said I was the best thing since sliced bread or something, which I don't know why that was, because I don't think I was that good. But once I got done my senior year, I actually graduated early from high school. But instead of leaving and going off to school somewhere else immediately, I stayed to finish out the basketball season. So I was able to focus more on that near the end of the season and help out some of the players. One of the big ones right now that we all know of is OG Anunoby. I knew him, and he and I butt heads sometimes, but he was a great guy. We would play against each other one-on-one in practice or things like that. And then sometimes during practice, I would race him in the suicides or things like that, the full court runs. And that was kind of fun.
Still at Indiana University, right? Still playing there?
As long as he hasn't screwed up, yeah.
Right. Yeah, which is definitely a big powerhouse school. And not only do you have, a connection with basketball, but through your family and, being able to go to Jeff City and, we did that special edition with Maurice and, I was able to talk to your dad and, obviously there's a huge correlation with Alabama football in your family.
Very much so. That starts way back. I honestly don't know when it began. I think since the dawn of time, once Alabama was founded and Tuscaloosa was built, I think my ancestors were there going like, okay, we're ready for some football. So the way I understand it started way back with my great-grandfather, and he actually knew the bear. This is where my dad starts the stories and everything. And so ever since I was a little kid, I would watch the games with my dad. Well, I would sit in his lap in the recliner and watch the games with him. And when I got older, we would just sit next to each other and watch the games. So far, it's just me and him because my mother can't stand it because he gets irate and crazy, yelling at the TV like people can hear him or something.
Like every other Alabama football fan, right?
I know. It's like, what's so weird about it? But that's how we roll. I try to be calm most of the time because I know if we're at home, that's going to happen. So we switch off whoever's going to be the crazy one during the games. And usually it's at the halftime switch because I usually get crazier during the fourth quarter stuff because that's when we usually play the best. And so that's when I get crazy. And once we win a game, it's so nice. But yeah, that's been a big thing. So I was so happy when we won. So happy.
Again, just all the success that team has had. While Nick Saban has been their head coach, it's really got to be a cool experience for you to, be able to experience all that with your dad.
It is. A lot of people, I don't know what everyone's relationship is with their father, and I know a lot of people say that they don't spend much time with their dad. I know as a teenager myself, I thought my dad was just a dumb rock and didn't know much and didn't understand the meaning of life. But once I got older and started seeing that he actually did understand the meaning of life and understand that he could actually benefit me, I started listening to him more and, hanging out with him and understanding some of the ways. I relate a lot more to the older people because through him I've watched a lot of old shows like MASH or Gilligan's Island or other things like that. So I make references like that, and all the people here, the younger generation, go like, what the heck is that? But all the professors know what the heck I'm talking about. So, but it's been a great bonding, and yeah, he comes up here. Last semester he came up here almost every away game to watch it because we don't have cable, so we can't watch ESPN or anything like that, which Alabama's starting to be on, which is kind of making us mad. But so we watch it here at the university on the cable that I get through my tuition. Yeah. So we've had a great time with that. Also gets them out of the house so my mother can have a peaceful house one Saturday.
It's a 2-for-1 win right there.
Essentially, that's how we look at it.
Huge shout out to Mike Ballard there if he's watching. Absolutely, and and obviously, you have a little bit of a sports background, and you have, the production side of things. And I've known you now for, well, it's been about a good 2 years now that we've really been working together. And when you came up with this idea to do the show, you immediately kind of went to me as one of the, somebody that would be interested in doing it. What kind of gave you the notion, or, what was your inspiration to start this show?
The inspiration to start this show, it was you. You know that. That's how it started. Originally, this show was just supposed to be me interviewing the FCA leaders just to get their testimony so we could do some promotional stuff with it. And then when the original guy I had to do it, he bailed on me within 24 hours before a shoot. And so I was like, well, who else am I going to talk to? And so I was talking with Darren. He was like, oh, maybe Jay Ketz would want to do it. I was like, okay, I doubt he'll want to, but I'll send it to him. When you said, yeah, I'll do it, I was like, okay, how soon do you think you can do it? I go like, well, how soon do you need me? I say, in about 6 hours. You're like, yeah, I can do it. And so once we got there to the multi, and you saw our redneck build of a canopy, you were just like, what did I get into?
It's certainly not what this is now.
Nowhere what this was, for sure. So, but I mean, and then after when we got done with that first shoot, we both said this is not going to be the real deal. We both told Cheyenne that, and we were just like, sorry, girl, we just didn't think this plan through well enough. And after we talked, this was originally going to be called the Ketz's Corner. That
was a bad name for it.
Old Ketz's Corner. So, but after some deliberations, we met. I don't believe at this point in time, after that shoot, I know I asked Frazier after a while to be my assistant producer, and by some luck of a miracle, he said yes. Don't know why. He must be insane. That, or I'm just crazy to think he likes working with me. I don't know. Either way, this works. But after having those few meetings, and we just sat down, we just thought, what do we want to do? And we thought maybe we should get a sponsor. So I talked to my dad and got him to sponsor the show a little bit, and he gave us those canopies, which look more official than our redneck rig. So that's kind of really how the show started, and we were just deliberating in Live Radio 1, and I think we all just said, well, I think the Heart of the Mule sounds the best. Yeah. And so that's how it was birthed. So instead of doing it as just a little 3-minute deal, we decided to make it a full-on scale show, because go big or go home, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, that was the one thing, right off the bat with, especially when I started doing this, and obviously I've done a lot with Sports Page and some of the other things, but this was really, I mean, we brought out the TriCaster, and we brought out, we had a 3-camera setup the entire time, and, doing all of that. Talk a little bit about how, this whole experience has really been able to grow you as a director.
To grow me as a director, I mean, it's not much directing work, to be honest with you. It's just being able to time when you guys pause and change. That's really what the trouble is, which I know Frazier's dealing with right now back there in the studio, control room, just trying to figure out when to switch to each camera. I mean, doing the whole TriCaster thing is ambitious as it is, and I know professors either frown at me or applaud me for doing that, but I mean, I enjoy it. The directing aspect is fun. I do enjoy that. Producing it has been interesting, and it has been a worthy experience for me. I hope it's been worthy for you guys, because you've been doing it for free. So I can't afford to pay you at this point in time. So
we're all just a bunch of college kids that are trying to get their foot in the door. That's all we are. And no, Cordell, again, I appreciate allowing me to do this, and and I'm sure that I speak for Michael Frazier, as well, that we appreciate the opportunity, and it's been a blast. It's been a pleasure, and as Michael's telling me to wrap it up right now, but no, again, I appreciate the time, and again, it was a learning experience for myself and Michael, and we certainly appreciate it.
As long as it helps you guys in the future, that's all I care about.
Absolutely. And this will conclude this edition of the Heart of the Mule, presented by Taylor Industries. Again, thanks again for Cordell Ballard sitting down with us. This concludes the inaugural season of the Heart of the Mule, presented by Taylor Industries. For Michael Frazier in the studio, I'm your host, Jason Ketz. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Jason Ketz, and thanks for watching this week's edition of The Heart of the Mule presented by Taylor Industries. If you or someone you know would like to be on the show, email us at theheartofthemule@gmail.com.